What if the most damaging thing that ever happened to you wasn't something that was done to you, but something that was never given? Psychologists call it the invisible wound, and it affects roughly 40% of adults worldwide. The absence of love in childhood doesn't just hurt, it literally rewires your brain. In the 1950s, psychologist John Bowlby discovered something revolutionary. Children don't just want love, they need it like oxygen. His attachment theory showed that our earliest relationships create a mental blueprint for every relationship we'll ever have. Miss that window, and you're essentially building every future connection on a cracked foundation. Here's where it gets disturbing. In the famous still face experiment, researchers had mothers suddenly go emotionally blank while interacting with their babies. Within seconds, infants became distressed, confused, desperately trying to re-engage. Now imagine that stillness lasting years. That's what emotional neglect looks like from the inside. The ACE study, one of the largest investigations into childhood trauma, found something shocking. Children who experienced emotional neglect had a 64% higher risk of depression and were 4 times more likely to attempt suicide as adults. But here's what's wild. Their brains physically looked different. Smaller prefrontal cortexes, overactive amygdalas, the architecture of fear built in. Bowlby called them inner working models. Basically, the stories we tell ourselves about whether we're lovable and whether others can be trusted. If your childhood taught you that love is unreliable, you develop what psychologists call an anxious attachment style. You become hypervigilant, always scanning for rejection. Or you go the opposite direction, avoidant attachment. You convince yourself you don't need anyone at all. Here's the cruel irony. Unloved children often become adults who unconsciously recreate their childhood dynamics. It's called repetition compulsion, Freud's term for how we're drawn to familiar pain. That emotionally unavailable partner? They feel like home. Not because they're good for you, but because chaos is the only love language you learn. But your brain isn't static. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, means the story doesn't end with your childhood. Research from UCLA shows that earned secure attachment is possible. Through therapy, meaningful relationships, or even deep self-work, adults can literally build new neural pathways. The book Running on Empty by Janice Webb has helped millions understand this invisible wound. Therapists call it reparenting, learning to give yourself what you never received. It sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. Validating your own emotions, setting boundaries without guilt, treating yourself with the compassion your younger self deserved. Studies show that self-compassion practices can reduce cortisol levels by up to 25%. Perhaps the most powerful finding? Parents who recognize their own attachment wounds are significantly more likely to raise securely attached children, even if they never experienced secure attachment themselves. Awareness breaks the cycle. Your pain doesn't have to become your legacy. The wound of not being loved as a child is real. It shapes your brain, your relationships, your sense of self. But here's what the research keeps showing us. You are not your childhood. You are what you choose to do with it. And that choice? It's available to you right now.